A brand new Yu-Gi-Oh set has just hit the game. Age of Overlord is here and here to stay, and it's one of the most impactful sets of the year. I'm here to speak with Darth Nash, one of our lovely pro players, to talk about the impact, some of the cards to watch out for, and the general state of the game right now. There was a little bit of an internet dodginess in terms of our recordings, so sometimes Nash freezes, but his audio is crystal clear, and hopefully that is fine for you to listen to. I'm very sorry, my computer seems to be in the wars, but fingers crossed we can get it all sorted for next week. We'll be having a nice new conversation with someone else. But until then, give Nash a follow. He's a very good duelist and a very nice person to speak to. Until next week, farewell, bye-bye.
So, what is up, all of my beautiful dudes and dudettes? That's just how I start my videos.
That's fun by me.
I am Darth Nash 6, and I play almost exclusively dual terminal lore decks. So really, if it was released in any of the Hidden Arsenal sets, that's a deck that I have played, am playing, or am currently theorying out with people to play, like realistically. So I really like jank, and I like taking jank to its competitive ceiling. The last time that I took a actual like meta deck to a tournament was Danger Dark World FTK in 2018. So like if you're watching History of Yu-Gi-Oh, we're like at that period, that's the last time that I played anything meta, and I hated it. I was like, I realized that I was playing Yu-Gi-Oh, but I wasn't having fun with Yu-Gi-Oh. And so I was like, I think I'm going to do that. And I had the idea of doing a series. And so I started researching all of the dual terminal decks. Yeah. Because that's how my friends and I in school, when we like started learning how to really play Yu-Gi-Oh instead of like playground format, the Hidden Arsenal booster sets in like, stores around us, that was how we learned about the existence of archetypes. Because the only cards available to us and the cards that we would get from people at school were like basically, 2002 to 2004 era Yu-Gi-Oh!
Yeah, which is not exactly the premium Synchro Xyz awesome cool packages that you want to be playing with up until like that point.
Exactly. So we're like Hidden Arsenal was teaching us about the game, basically. Like that's how we were like learning the different phases, how to like interact with your opponent, how to do like priority, even because priority was still around at that point. Yeah. And so like we all fell in love. I fell in love with Dragoonity. Another friend fell in love with Drak. Another friend fell in love with Worms. Somebody with Fabled.
I was going to say, out of all of them, I think you've benefited the most out of your choice of support.
Yeah. And so we would all play with each other, and so instead of like a playground format, we had a study hall format, because we made sure that all of our breaks during the school day all coincided with each other, and so we would just travel from room to room throughout the day in our free periods, and just like basically host like day-long tournaments.
So we did something very similar back at my school. In secondary school, we always used to go, I knew where all the empty classrooms were, so me and my friends would just follow every empty classroom, and we'd all play Vanguard and Yu-Gi-Oh! In all of those. And during PE, me and my friend used to sometimes bunk off PE and go into one of the classrooms and play Yu-Gi-Oh! Instead. And I remember there used to be this teacher who'd come round and do all these checks, and I heard her coming down the corridor. And so I just grabbed a newspaper and I opened up the newspaper so it covered the table. I opened this double-page newspaper and just put it on top of our game until she went away, and we're just waiting for her to move the newspaper, because underneath this newspaper there was an entire deck, board, field, hand, all set up underneath this newspaper page. And I'm like, if she looks under this newspaper page, I'm going to get in quite a lot of trouble. But no, we lucked out there.
All of you guys are just like looking at the newspaper and be like, yes, the news seems...
Study. We're in study hall. It's study time. It's reading the newspaper like a good mature...
current events.
Oh, the risks I took then that I would be... I don't know how I had the balls for it. You like jank. You like jank getting support. Support for all decks, staples, new cards, new archetypes. They're getting crazy all the time. And right now, we are about to usher in the Age of Overlord, an amazingly powerful new set, debatably the best product of the year so far in terms of like power. Like the last couple of sets, there's been maybe 1 or 2 cards to look at, but there's not even been like a chase card that's sort of, you need this to play Yu-Gi-Oh! A lot of the stuff in Age of Overlord feels like if you ain't got it, you ain't in the format for a bit. How do you feel about Age of Overlord? What's your first reactions to it? Obviously, I don't know if you've been to any of the sneak peek events and got your hands on some already. How have you been feeling about it?
So I was able to go to one sneak peek, and I got a hold of all of the cards that I need. I couldn't get a hold of like Dialba Star or Little Knight just because I didn't have the funds.
No.
But like I got a hold of all of the Watt cards.
Nice.
Was really excited about the Watt cards because I had been seriously considering taking Watt to YCS Philadelphia a couple months ago.
Really?
And so like right after that, seeing that like support had been announced, I was over the moon.
I love Watt.
Excited about that.
It's interesting. There's a lot of good support for janky decks. And then there's some very expensive staples. Like there's not like a middle ground. It's like really cheap. If you play a bad deck, you're killing it in Age of Overlord. If you play a good deck, your money is gone. Like you need that Horus set. You need that Diabell Star set. You need that Little Knight. You might want to get the new bad Zeus. What is it about this set that set it apart from every set that's come out since Power of the Elements?
I think that like even the bad cards in the deck are good. It's like in a vacuum, like as a sealed set, you could even play, you could realistically do something with this set, which like makes it good right now. You know, like if eventually when they get to this in like the progression series or progression playoffs, like this is going to be a good set to have. Yes, it's top heavy, but a lot of the commons, a lot of the supers are super good. Like just think the Snake Eyes archetype, almost the entirety of the archetype is super rare. Aside from its, 2 boss monsters, Dialba Star and, the Dragon Serpent Golgonda thing.
Yeah.
But you can like realistically play those cards without those 2 secret rares. Will it be as good? Absolutely not. No. But will it function? And yes. And that's something that's crazy to me, is that even all of the low rarity cards, most of these can function essentially in a vacuum, which to me says that it's good. And the support is wild. That's like, aside from Dialba Star and Horus, everything else in this set is just support.
Yeah.
Whether it's legacy or current.
Or a new archetype entirely, like the Snake Eyes guys. They're brand shiny new. Obviously, they got that one Snake Eye treasure from before, but like the deck wasn't a deck before now.
And I love the Snake Eyes concept. I really want to mess around with that because I love how it benefits fire decks. Like it really heavily leans into fire decks, and as somebody who has unironically taken Laval to regionals in this calendar year, I was really excited for it. I'm like, you mean to tell me that I can search Handmaiden, which is the starter for the entire deck? I think they're like Pyros and Fiends.
Okay.
But what they like realistically do is they all get you a way to add a level 1 fire from like deck or grave to hand. Because they're all level 1 fire. So it's intended for them to like search themselves, but that opens up plays to the Laval cards. That opens up plays to Jet Synchron. That opens up plays to Infernoble. Like Snake Eyes Infernoble is going to be realistic. I see that being a thing.
Rescue Ace Fire Hydrant. Rescue Ace Fire Hydrant is a level 1 fire in an already quite good deck, which will now become a very good deck. So
that's why Dialba Star Rescue Ace is like the top contender for this format, because it lets you search Hydrant, which like by itself doesn't do much, but the entire deck is turned on, so it is more access to Hydrant, and that's what the entire deck circles around.
You go for your hot take first.
I think the Horus cards are overrated.
I agree. Now, I was going to say, what do you think the chase cards are from this set? So if you're a normal, everyday person, you never bought Yu-Gi-Oh before, you're opening your booster pack, what should you be excited to pull? You should be excited to pull the Diabellstar card herself, the witch. You should be excited to pull the spell that searches her, which is like a wanted poster. You should be excited to pull the like original Sin Snake Eye spell that supports her. So that's the kind of 3 you need if you want to put them in any deck. And then if you want to play Snake Eyes, they go in that too.
Okay. Like that.
So the Horus archetype is all based around this classic Yu-Gi-Oh style sarcophagus, and it sits on the field. It gives them limited protection. It lets you discard, send from hand to grave, not discard. It lets you send from hand to grave to draw cards. It lets you, and they all have effects that summon themselves quite cheaply. They can have other effects when other ones of them are destroyed. Some of them float, some of them destroy, some of them do all sorts of gunk. They're all very cheap to summon. They're all level 8 for the most part, aren't they? Or the most part of them. And they can be used.
They're all level 8.
All level 8. I knew that 2 of them were at least. So people are using them to make Harbinger Galaxies. They're using them to make all sorts. They're using them to make Coach King Wolfbark. They're using them to make all sorts of rank 8s that we'd be wanting to make anyway in those kind of decks. Now, I've seen a lot of people use it against me online. I've not played a single deck that runs it as an engine, but not once have I felt like it's a problem for me to fight. You know what I mean? Like, I fought them and I'm like, yeah, they get a free draw. They have a couple of bodies. I agree with your hot take that you think that Horus is overrated, because I have never felt a fear in me whenever the opponent plays the sarcophagus. And maybe I'm stupid, or maybe they're bad at their decks, but I just see it as like a couple of draws and a mild protection that you can normally get rid of. Like, I really don't see what the hype is.
I've looked into them, talked about them with people. I've even seen like different ways that the deck can be played. And aside from the Therion build, to me, it seems they bring down the consistency, like ironically enough, of any deck that they're put in.
But something that is scary though, SP Little Knight. That scary lady,
yes.
She is terrifying. I have no idea what her current market value is, but I bet it's too high for me. If you told me anything between 70 and 200, I would believe you. Because this is a new link too. So she can already has a nasty little disruption. She can banish a card of yours and banish an opponent's card for a turn. So that's already annoying, and that can help, and that can have lots of different applications. If you made her using an extra deck monster, you also get to do a banish on the summon, correct? I can't remember. Does that one come back, or does that one go forever?
I believe that they come back.
Okay, so you get potentially 2 banishes off her summon and her quick effect, and she comes back, so she can do it all over again if you choose to banish her, or you don't have to. You can banish something else, I think. So this card is crazy. This card is the new unicorn, probably.
It's the new unicorn because there isn't a cost.
No. Like
unicorn, you had to discard a card. SP Little Knight, you just leave IP on the field with something else, and you're ready to go.
Yeah. This card is going to be very expensive for a very long time. It's like the chase card of the set, isn't it? It's the most definitively good card. Diabellstar is good, but she's not good on her own. You need Diabellstar and you need her spells. Whereas if you pull an SP Little Knight in a pack, that's going in your extra deck. That's going in an extra deck of every single deck that has an extra deck, which is all of them except for maybe a very committed Monarch player. What do you think of SP Little Knight? Do you think it's good, or do you think it's too good? Like, is this a problem? Is this like a power creep that we don't like, or is this sort of just like an interesting tool in the arsenal?
I think, like, definitely parroting a lot of very big names and good players, I do think it's one of the best extra deck monsters we've seen in a long time. It's kind of replaced the niche that DPE had in the format, but without running the main deck bricks that you had to with DPE, because this is a card where it is an annoying form of disruption on your opponent's turn that you can get if you have been hand trapped to death and have 2 monsters on board.
And unlike DPE, they can't call by the grave it because she banishes herself. There's like, obviously there are limits. If they really hate it, they could run Imperial Iron Wall, but they're not going to.
It's the new make Verte. You know, like decks that used Verte as their crutch to be competitively viable. IP is now that, but everybody can play IP. And what's so amazing about IP is it is 1 slot in your entire deck, as opposed to 2 slots in your extra deck. Five minimum in main. 5 slots in your main deck.
3 for your fusion destinies, and then probably 2 fusion targets. But yeah, like I knew she was cracked. I've been thinking about her as the new unicorn, which is obviously only a 2 extra deck slot if you're running IP and unicorn. But when you think of her as DPE, she's even better than I was thinking. Like that, the value on this girl, insane. Which is why the market value will reflect such nastiness. New Zeus. We got a new Zeus. So Zeus is a very popular Xyz monster. He can slap himself on top of any Xyz as long as you've had a fisticuff with an Xyz this turn. He's very good because he wipes the board. Now this new enemy of Zeus, it's like a big alien monster man. It does not wipe. It is a weird floodgate. What do you think of our new alien overlord?
I think that it is good in the tier matchup.
Okay.
And that's about it. That's the only matchup that I see it realistically being played, because tier is the only deck right now that will consistently play on turn 0.
Mm-hmm.
And so that immediately turns on Dark Zeus.
Dark Zeus. Is it called T-PHON or something? I think it's called
T-PHON, like Typhoon, Typhoon,
something like that. Yeah.
Because like your opponent will have monsters on board and you've got 1 monster, and if they're trying to lock you out with, like tier shenanigans, you're like, well, I'm just gonna drop this dude. And like any tier play will immediately turn Typhon on for you turn 1. And but other than that, I don't see Typhon realistically being used in any other matchup, because it doesn't do anything in any other matchup.
I agree. I read it and I see people getting hype about it, and much like Horus, it's a good card, but it just feels very fair. And I'm like, where's the... Zeus isn't fair. You can make 2 Zeus. You can do Zeus and then you can Zeus on your Zeus. Zeus can be horrible. Mm-hmm. Zeus can react to himself in the same chain to try and get around a negate. This is just a fair little beefy boy. It's kind of nice for some of the weaker decks to have. Like if you were playing something like Burning Abyss, I'd put one in. Like why not? Like it's a fat guy that you can use for Xyz players. But it's no Zeus. He's no Zeus anytime soon. What else is good? What else is the heart logs? We've talked about Snake Eyes. Good, fun, cheap deck aside from the Queen. Diabell Star, she is cracked. She'll go in every deck that can fit her. She's a good little engine. Good add, good search, good summon. Dark Zeus is mid, maybe. Maybe it's great and we're just stupid, but I feel like it's mid. And Horus is seemingly good, but far too fair, in my opinion. What else is in this set that's hot? There's
the new Chimera Fusion, which on summon sends any beast, fiend, or illusion monster from deck to grave.
Now that sounds like a Tri-Brigade card if I've ever heard one.
Exactly. So the concept of Tri-Brigade Chimera did exist at first, but people didn't play it because they knew that branded Chimera was just like at heart better, or even pure Chimera would be better. But this card right here fully brings the link, like it combines them together more fully, so that a single Chimera fusion will result in full Chimera combo with full Tri-Brigade combo.
T-Set Pass on T-Set Pass. It's time to play T-Set Pass, my weekly guessing game. Although I haven't done it for about 2 weeks, so my less than weekly guessing game. I'm going to give you a hint, and I want you to guess the card face down in the monster zone and the card face down in the spell trap zone. Your hint is My Monster Now, and it can be as new or as old. It does not have to be a flip monster. It just has to be a monster. So, like, it could, for example, Bouncy Bouncy was the hint. The face down spell trap was compulsory evacuation device. And the monster was Neospatian Grand Mole. Obviously, really, Neospatian Grand Mole wouldn't trigger if being attacked face down in that way. However, it is Bouncy Bouncy and therefore fits the hint.
Okay.
Okay.
So, my face down monster, you said...
The hint for both is my monster now. And you have
monster now.
And both cards will fit the hint. But just like Compulse and Grand Mole, the cards don't need to have actual relationships between them other than fitting the hint. It doesn't have to be that they work together in some way.
Is the face down a spell card?
No. The face down is not a spell card.
So, the back row is a trap card.
Potentially. Or a monster card. It could be Scythe hidden away, but it's not a spell card.
A trap card that is essentially a change of heart. My monster now. What monster is my monster now? Is the monster, is it a fusion?
No.
Is it an extra deck monster?
I'm going to give you this one for free. The monster is a main deck monster. I'm going to give you that as a free. So you have 2 questions left. I'll take that fusion one as your cost. I'll take that as is it an extra deck monster? And it's a main deck monster. That's narrowed it down a little bit, but there's still plenty to choose from.
Yeah. A trap and a main deck monster. My monster now.
They could be very new. They could be very old.
Okay, is the monster relinquished?
The monster is not relinquished.
It's not relinquished. Oh.
It's not relinquished. Okay, you do get a second monster guess, and you still have 2 questions to narrow it down.
A trap card that is a change of heart. Crap. Oh, wait, hold on. Is the trap like Icy Dragon's Prison? I
like your logic. It's a good guess, but it's not correct. You have 1 guess left on the spell trap. Very good logic, though. Ice Dragon's Prison summons a card out of the opponent's graveyard to your side of the field, and then you can also banish it if you want to banish something with the same type. But you don't have to. But no, it's not Ice Dragon's Prison, sadly.
Okay. But you liked my logic. So
I liked your logic.
Point to my ego right there.
A point to your ego. A beautiful guess. A beautiful guess from a beautiful man, but not an accurate one.
Making me blush. Okay, so it's a main deck monster.
It's a main deck monster.
Wait, is it that stupid Makanko?
It's not that stupid Makanko. I'm afraid that's your second monster guess. It's not that stupid Makanko. It's not one Makanko. To be fair, I'll take that as your hint. As is it a Makanko card? And the answer is no. It's not a Makanko card. You get 1 more question to narrow it down, and you get 1 more guess on the monster.
I think I'm gonna have to give up on this.
Really?
I don't know enough change of heart effects.
That's fine by me.
I just listed off all of the ones that I can think of.
Is that you giving up for the monster and the spell trap, or is that you just giving up for the monster?
I think I'm gonna have to give up for both. I was really banking on the back row being Icy Dragon's Prison.
It's a very good guess, and it's probably around the same kind of era. But the trap card is Crackdown. That continuous trap that's gonna steal that monster to your side of the field as long as it's face up and ready to rock and roll.
I always forget that card exists.
So do I, but there it be. Here it be, Crackdown. And the monster is Nightmare Magician, the shiny new illusion monster that probably isn't getting played in the most meta of Chimera builds, but he steals a monster. Its monster effect is... he's got 3 effects, but one of them, so he cannot be destroyed or destroyed by battle, as most illusion monsters. If another card attacks that isn't him, you can pop a card. So he's Elemental Hero Sunrise. And then at the end of damage after he battles a monster, take control permanently.
I will be completely honest when I say I never read. I pulled him out of an entry pack for an event. Never read him because I was like, oh, this card's $7. And
I can see why people. I've seen lots of weird Chimera lists, and lots of people try and sneak one in and as like a fun tech, and you can see why. Because if you can actually get it onto the field, that isn't a terrible card to have on your side of the field. It's Sunrise and Borrowload, but it's not got an inherent summon condition, and therefore probably isn't worth the paper it's printed on most of the time. But it's very pretty.
I do feel good about my guess. I would not have guessed them. So I feel good with the guesses that I had.
Ice Dragon's Prison is the right sort of mentality, a more modern card that can do a quick steal. Although I feel like if you're running Crackdown, you'd probably rather be running Ice Dragon's Prison. Although Crackdown does sometimes help because it does negate the effect as well. So it does have that semi-weird effect veiler element to it. Brilliant. Thank you for playing T-Set Pass. Sorry that we didn't get it, but it's just a little brain teaser. It makes you remember that cards exist, which I always enjoy.
I enjoyed it. I had a good time.
Brilliant. And thank you for coming onto the podcast. Is there any final thoughts that you have that you want to sort of impart on anybody who chooses to so listen to this episode of the pod?
If you love a deck, don't give up on it, but also do not get tunnel vision on it. Learn how other decks play, learn how winning decks play, understand how other decks play, but do not give up on your deck. Like, your deck will get better the more that you understand how other decks work.
On top of that, sort of waiting, because on top of that, if you love a deck and the deck is around long enough, there is a very good chance that Konami will eventually give you some support. And it doesn't mean it will be good support. Let's not get your hopes up on that, because sometimes we get your support and you don't want it. You'd rather give it back and wait for some new support in a couple of years' time. But if you wait long enough, it could be good times for you. Also, if you've sold your Gen X's or whatever a couple of years ago, and Konami announced cracked Gen X support, for example, they will reprint them. They always do. They, look at the Volcanic pack. Just because, if let's say Volcanic was more meta than it was, they would not have put you in the lurch. They always include all common versions of everything you could have needed from the old sets. If it's not in the pack where the support comes out, it will be in an OTS. If it's not in an OTS, then it will be in a Megatin. If it's not in a Megatin, it will be in something like the new Rarity Collection. Just because, new Gen X Synchro gets announced tomorrow and it lets you win the game in 2 turns, does not mean you should probably go and buy the incredibly now price spiked Gen X's unless you want a specific rarity or a specific nostalgia reason, because the stuff will come. It will get a common print. If you just want to play the deck, I don't think you should follow the price trends.
Absolutely, 100%. Like, so I have played both Watts and Gen X competitively. Watts is actually how I won my first ever locals. And so Watt is always going to have, it's always going to hold a place in my heart. Really excited that the support came out. I played Gen X at an OTS championship this year, within the last few months. And I felt very confident going into it with the build that I had. And so seeing the deck now is just making me more excited. And
a lot, people have to. It's one thing to know how to play your deck. You have to know how to play against the opponent's deck. If your opponent is on a very meta, excellent deck, then they might have no idea how to beat your weird jank tank. Appliances, whatever it is. I can't remember what the appliances guys. If your deck's weird, they might not know how to play it. They might not know the right choke points. However, that shouldn't mean that you get tunnel visioned on, no one will know what my Watts do. That means I'll win by default. Because guess what? Sometimes their cards are just better than yours. And you do need to live with that fact and be ready to lose because you're playing a spicy tech that nobody knows how to beat.
Yeah.
It's been lovely speaking with you. And thanks for coming on. Thank you for your kind gifts, Lewis, Sean, Ben, John, Zaid, Z, Corin, Eric, Wolfie, Joel, Kat, and Chaos. Big appreciation all round.